Predicted Trades family. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving holiday break. Sorry, messing with a few settings over here. But yeah, hope everybody had a great holiday. Had a few days off, took a break from trading, got away from the screens, spent time with some family, all that good stuff. Let's see. Hopefully everyone can hear me, see my screen. Let me know in the YouTube chat if you can, please. But we'll go ahead and start digging in here. So, ES, thank you, sir. A little confirmation that we can hear and everything. So, ES, last week we had a short week. Monday, we were stuck in a bunch of stack squeezes. And then Tuesday, we started to open near the top and then break out of those squeezes that were stacked up. Wednesday, we just kind of oscillated around this 40-20. On the overnight on Thursday, we moved up a little bit. On Friday, we just kind of sat. And now we're gapping down and heading a little lower. Overall, if we kind of look left, we can see that this 3096 and 4000 have been resistance and then support. And we're arriving right there pre-market. We have our daily 8 just below at 39.92 and a half. And that's kind of the top of the range that we were stuck in kind of the week prior and into last week before pushing back up to highs. And if we just kind of look left as well and zoom out, our other big key level down below is this 39.22. we got up to that 39.22 and rejected it for an M to head back down. And then we came up and took it out on that CPI gap up and go. And then we've pulled back to it once. And if we were to give out this daily 8 today, that daily 21 now sits down near that 39.22. So going into this week, one thing we want to keep in mind, it's the title of the video today, is we've got the daily 200 above. We haven't quite got there for a test yet. We got close last week, but it was very low volume last week, being a holiday short week. So we still have our daily 200 above at that 40.56. We've got our daily 21 below at that 39.22. If we start to give out this daily 8, we could go down to test that 39.22 and that daily 21. Give the look like an M, a double top. But for it to fully be an M, we have to take out that neckline, which is also 39.22. So, a couple of scenarios for this week and going into December. We could be dealing with another double top near the daily 200 that turns into a reversion to the mean that then takes us back down to something like our daily 50, which now sits right in the middle of the CPI gap. We could also see that with the end of the month and the changeover into the new month that we're getting this week, that we have buyers that step in to continue this trend that we're in. we've been in a pretty steady uptrend. And we'll step out to a daily real quick. Oh, while we're waiting on that to load, never mind, there it is. Let's see if I can get something a little clearer. There we go. A little better. So far this year, we've been stuck under this downtrend line. Then we're getting close to testing that downtrend line at the same time as the daily 200. With the end of the year approaching, one scenario is that we have started a rally into the end of the year. And for that rally to really become a true rally of significance, we do have to get over that daily 200 and push through our downtrend line and start heading back to take out the highs that form that downtrend line. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of significant highs that we need to take out above. So there's one scenario where we could continue up for the rest of the year and close so that the year itself is not too big of a red candle or a down, year. Another, scenario is that we could continue the pattern that we've been having of rejecting that daily 200 and falling back down to test that daily 50. And we could just start to settle in between our daily moving averages to close out the year and hold this range. So just a few scenarios we want to keep in the back of our head while we're looking at the lower time frames. Before I get too ahead of myself on where we could be going on the day and the week, let's pull up our economic calendar because that is a big important piece this week. So today we've got a couple of Fed speakers around noon, something to keep an eye on. Tomorrow we have some homes data coming out at 9 a.m. Consumer confidence index at 10 a.m. Wednesday is going to be kind of one of the big ones this week. We have ADP, employment. We have some GDP numbers coming out, right? GDP will feed into our inflation numbers, so those are very key. Let's see, we've got some PMI, some jobs data, some homes data, and Beige Book at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. After that, we've got our jobless claims and PCE. It's going to be a very big one. If we go look at each big economic move event this year, it's all been centering around CPI, PCE, and FOMC, right? So Thursday's going to be a big one with this PCE. Could send us higher still, or could reverse this trend if we kind of just go sideways and hold up until going into Thursday. And then Friday we have some non-farm payroll and some more jobs data. Let's see, looking into next week. Looking like it's a little bit of a light week next week. Okay, so big ones this week. We've got Beige Book and GDP on Wednesday, PCE on Thursday, and non-farm payroll on Friday. So let's see if we can rally into those releases. And maybe if we can hold up to the daily 8 and start to kind of go back to fill the gap today, we could even get to the daily 200 today. We are only at the first Keltner up, with the third Keltner still being up above at 41.50. So we have room to move to the upside. We clearly need to take out our highs from last week and a couple of weeks ago. Let's go back down to 30-minute. And let me load up my levels. So for today, excuse me. I would love to see us hold this daily 8 at the bottom of the squeezes. Pull up our squeeze watch list. And on ES, we just have the 30-minute squeeze. The bottom of which is right at that 39.96 and the daily 8. Love it when things line up. It gives us some confluence. So let's see if we can hold right at those two key levels, 39.93, 39.96, 4,000, all trying to provide some support. If we can hold these, I think we'll go up to visit the top of this 30-minute squeeze and this 40-20 range again. And if we can start to get through that and fire this 30-minute squeeze to the upside, we're looking to get back to the highs that we set last week and this big key zone above at 40.56 and 40.71. That's where the daily 200 and that second Keltner to the upside sit. So we need buyers to continue this uptrend. We need buyers to step in today to defend this level and this 30-minute squeeze bottom and start to take us back up. Otherwise, if we start to give that out, then buyers are failing to step in kind of when they should. And we'll go lower to find the next set of buyers. With our, we definitely want to watch that 39.80. That has been key interaction lately. And if that starts to give out, then it's back to 39.53 where the daily 15 sits. And we could even get down to this 39.22 where the daily 21 sits, like we talked about. Not necessarily saying that happens today, but this week, we definitely want to watch these key moving averages that we are stuck in between. We have the 8 right in the middle. If we can hold, we start to lean to the upside. If we start to lose it, start to lean to the downside. And we probably should have a good idea probably the first hour or two, I would think, into the session. So let's see how we deal with this 30-minute squeeze. It just started pre-market, so it'll start to get thicker, if we don't start to move in that first hour. Let's go on to NQ. Ah, darn it. And the one thing I did want to point out on ES, before we moved on, over here at least, this is my chart with all of the 45 MAs. Talk about this often. As you can see, that 4-hour 45 MA is sitting right at that 39.96. So again, in this uptrend that we have been holding, and the last time we tested the 45, we held for, about 2 days, 3 days almost, and then went higher. We are back at that 4-hour MA. So, and all of our lower time frame MAs are sitting at this 40-20. So again, it lends to the premise we can hold that 4-hour 45 MA and push through 4020, we'll be pushing back off of all of our moving averages from lower time frames, all of our 45 MAs. And if we start to lose that 30-96, we are falling under all of our MAs. We'll start rejecting them and heading lower till we find the next spot to base and come back and test them. So, key point to keep an eye on with these levels and the thesis. There's a pretty clear upside and downside thesis that plays out with our key levels, with our squeezes, with our MAs. And we're going to check in on this 4-hour 45 on each name as we go through today. Because on some names like Apple, we have fallen below. And it could start to turn into a rejection point, in which case we want to be aware that some of the bigger names are starting to change trend already, whether the market has or not. So let's start pumping through these names. NQ a little weaker. Definitely been lagging lately, and it's fallen back to this 11,677. It is below the daily 8, and we also have a 30-minute squeeze going into open. Overall, if we start to lose this 11,650, where that 30-minute squeeze bottom sits, we're going to get a pullback to this daily 21, likely, at 11,570. And we'll also be, testing our recent lows here. And we have that big key cycle level, 11,500, just for some downside targets if we start to lose 650 at the bottom of the squeeze. But let's see if NQ can hold this 677 and start to push back above this daily 8. Could break out of this 30-minute squeeze back to the upside to fill the gap and to push back to these recent highs with a goal of that 12,000 and 12,100 above as the targets to get to. But want to see it hold this 677 or 650 at the worst, basically your pre-market low, and start to reverse to fill the gap. If we take out pre-market low, then we're likely coming down to hit these MAs. And worth noting, we are already below our 4-hour MA. In fact, we gapped below it and have stayed below it overnight. Obviously lower volume. So let's see if we can quickly get back above 733, and 780 will pretty much get us back above our MAs. Ready. So the ready has a 4-hour squeeze in place that we have been tapping pre-market. So at the bottom of this 30-minute squeeze is also a 4-hour. A lot of support there to try and keep the ready above 1850. Let's see if it can get back above the daily 8, start to take out some pre-market highs, get back to fill the gap, which would get it back above the daily 200 here at 1867. Top of that 4-hour squeeze back at 1880, near the recent highs from last week. But if we start to lose that 1850, then we're likely coming back to test the daily 21 at 1840. And these recent lows at about 1830 and 1820. And overall for this week, if we can get back above 1880 and start to fire this 4-hour up, the big goal is getting back above 1900 and up to 1920 at the top of this daily squeeze. And just like everything else, if we start to lose these recent lows and this daily 21, we have that daily 50 down below at the bottom of this daily squeeze. So if we start to lose the daily 21 and this recent low, then that scenario is looking more likely. But let's see if we can hold 1850 and start to move to 1900. YM. YM definitely been leading on Friday. It was setting new highs above 34,000, almost made it to 34,400. With a little gap back. Looks like we have a 1 hour and a 2 hour. I'm sorry, and a 4 hour that's starting to form. Assuming that's the 4 hour, yep. And the 2 hours, what we've been bouncing off of pre-market. So for YM today, basically it's all about holding 34,000 at the bottom of this 4 hour squeeze. Not saying we get down there, but if we start to lose that pre-market low, then we could easily grind back to test that 34,000 daily 8 and this 4 hour squeeze bottom. If we catch a bounce and start to get back above VWAP at this 34,200, then it's pre-market high, back to fill the gap, top of this 4 hour squeeze 33,400, and beyond that 500. But if we start to give out that daily 8, then it's setting up for a slide back this week. We have the daily 15 down below at 33,650, the daily 21 at 33,250-ish. Also near this recent low that started this drive up. Let's see, our 4 hour 45 sits a little bit below that 34,000. Actually, pretty much right on top of the daily 8. So we've got overlap with the daily 8 and the 4 hour 45. Great spot for YM to find support to keep going higher. Otherwise, the other direction. Morning, Carl. Good to see you, sir. So Apple's a little bit more concerning on this gap down, just because it has dropped down significantly. If we look at our 4 hour 45, we open below it and got back above. Then we slipped back below it again, and now we are way below. And those MAs are starting to cross back below that 4 hour 45. So Apple, a little concerning. It is looking a little weak, and it's back at our 144, 145 zone. So looking for this to hold this week. These recent lows were right off of this zone. That allowed us to almost get up to 155. So looking for that zone to hold again and start to get us back to our moving averages above. If we start to lose that zone, then we're talking about slipping back to that 140, 138. So let's see if they step in today on Apple and pick it up off of this zone if buyers are strong and start to push it back to fill the gap near that 147.5. I mean, ultimate goal is fighting back up into this range we've been in and completing the journey to that daily 200 and this 155 big key level. AMD. Chips were pretty strong last week. Closing near that 75, gapping a little bit below. Going to be opening pretty much right at the daily 8. So let's see if it can hold up. Basically, let's see. Yeah, if we start to give out 73.5, then we are likely coming back to test this 72.3. But if we can hold up here and start to push back above 74.5, then we can get back to fill the gap and maybe push back up to that 77 and recent high of 79. But if we do start to give out, that's 73.5, coming back to 72.3. Should that give out, then we're talking back to 70 where the daily 21 sits. Basically, we have had some nice pushes, and we have been pushing off of our daily 8 repeatedly. So we just need that to continue and buyers to keep stepping in at the daily 8 to continue this rally up. Otherwise, we are talking about reversion to the mean on a lot of names as we go through them. Amazon been a little weaker, kind of went sideways through this down channel and hasn't really started to break out to the upside. So it'd be nice if some of these laggers like Amazon started to see some rotation into them. Actually, pretty nice right here that it has come back and filled the gap already and is actually having a little gap up while the market's gapping down. So, little relative strength here in Amazon that we should maybe pay attention to this week. We're going to be opening near the top of this range that we were stuck in last week. So just a little push this morning gets us breaking out of this range and maybe coming back to test some of these highs or these levels above. So relative strength here in Amazon, definitely want to pay attention to that pre-market. We do have our squeezes in place, right? But if we can get to start to get back to this 95, next stop would be getting to this 97, the daily 21 at 98, and then a big psych level of 100, 101, 104. There's some targets to the upside should this relative strength we're seeing pre-market play out to some rotation into a lagger, which would definitely help out the tech and the tech side of the market. But if we start to reject that 95, then we could be coming back to at least filling the gap at about 93.5, right? And should that start to give out, 92, 91 is what we're going to test at the bottom of this 4-hour squeeze. BA. Man, I didn't look at BA on Friday. She made a nice move. Definitely part of the gap down, even though she did set a new high pre-market. So something to keep an eye on. Might mean that with this print up here for a new high, that there is some interest brewing to keep this up as it is starting to break out of this consolidation. So overall, I want to see it hold 175, 176 to continue this journey up to 180. If we start to lose that 75, coming back to the daily 8 at 74, and back into this consolidation. But definitely interesting relative strength. Again, Wednesday, Friday, this had some nice moves. Let's see if they step in to keep it going off of this 76. Cat. Also some relative strength last week, Monday, Tuesday, and then kind of settled Wednesday, Friday. coming back near this gap and go that we had. So let's see if it can hold at 232, which basically is where that gap starts. If we can hold 232 and start to get back above 234, then looking to get up to these recent highs and back to 240. If we start to give out 232, then we're likely coming back to test 230 and this 228 that we, did a pretty good job of holding and pushing off of. Coin. Again, not loving coin, and it's kind of stuck in between this 41-ish and 46. So, this week, if it can hold that 41 and set in a double bottom, it needs to get up and take out 46, and then we could be talking about a reversion to the mean back to 52, and these levels above it, 56.5 and 58.5. Google. Some decent strength in Google last week as well. Fought back to that 98.78, and then came back to these moving averages. So again, some relative strength here. It's trying to get back and fill the gap. Basically going to be opening flat. As long as it can hold that daily 8 and daily 50 around 97. Great spot to go long with the goal of getting back to this 98.78 and this psych level 100 and 101. But if we start to lose that 97, then we're likely slipping back to the daily 21 at around 96 and the daily 15 at around 94.5. GS. Relative strength last week as well. Gapping down, but just near Friday's lows and where we held up on Wednesday. So as long as we can hold that 385, 386, looking for a push up to get back to 390 and maybe even push further to that 400 level. But we are still up near our third Keltners. So we want to be cognizant of the potential for a double top here and a reversion to the mean. The mean sitting way down at 367. So if we start to give out this 385, coming back to test 382 where the daily 8 sits, and if that starts to give out, then we could cascade through 380 and down near this 370 where the 21 sits. Let's just skip on to Meta. And Meta's just been consolidating between this 113.5 and 109 in this 4-hour squeeze. Opening near the bottom of a squeeze, pretty much right at this 110. Let's see if we can hold pre-market low. If not, coming down to test this 4-hour squeeze bottom and this recent low near 109. But if we can hold 110 and start to push back through 111 where the daily 8 sits, we got the 21 at 111.5, which basically fills the gap. And if we can push past that, looking to get back to that 13.5 at the top of this 4-hour squeeze. Microsoft. So some definite strength last week, moving off that 240, 241, and almost making it to 250. Let's see, pre-market low right around 245, so as long as we can hold up above 245, looking for it to push back and fill the gap to 247.5 and continue that journey up to 250. And then 255, the next big key level at the top of this 2-day squeeze. But if we start to give out that 245, then likely coming back to this daily 8 or this 241, 240 where the daily 21 sits. But we did a great job of just holding there. Now the daily 21 has caught up here. It is back near where we just held and started to push higher. So we still will have some support there, testing the 21 back at 240. But yeah, definitely keep an eye on Microsoft this week. Might actually start to break out to the upside and get up to this 2-day squeeze top. Netflix. Come on. So, had a little downtrend and starting to kind of break out of it sideways. Opening back down near these lows and at the bottom of this 4-hour squeeze. As long as we can hold 280, we've got the daily 21 at 282.5. Good spot to go long. Already trying to come back to fill the gap. So a little relative strength here. And yeah, this 280, 285 is a good spot to go long. If we start to lose 280, we're coming back to 270. Recent low at 271.5, where that first Keltner to the downside sits. But right at the daily 21, if we're going to get that upside thesis in the market, Netflix will probably make a nice move off of the daily 21 here and try to get back to this 290, 295, 300, 307, with the ultimate goal of trying to get up to that 333, which fills the previous gap down from earnings. We still have that level of 333 above as a target. We've made it to 314 and had a little pullback. Let's see if we can make that push again. Definitely going to keep an eye on Netflix this week. NVIDIA. So NVIDIA had a very clear downtrend that it broke out of last week. Made that big push up. Basically right now, just looking for it to hold this 158, 159, where that daily 8 and daily Keltner sit. If we can start to hold there, looking for it to push back over 160, come back to fill the gap at 163-ish. And try to push through this 165, 166, and a goal to get back to 170. If we start to lose that 159, 160, then 155 where the daily 15 sits, and 151 where the daily 21 sits, and our recent lows. This could be the start of an H, unless we hold up here and take out this high. Then it's just a pullback for continuation. QQQ. So going to be opening near this 285. Premarket low near 283.5. So definitely keep an eye on the 283s. The 287s, because that's your pre-market highs and lows, right? We have a 30-minute squeeze here as well near this 284. So as long as we can hold that 284 and push through 285, 286, looking to get back to fill the gap at 287 and try to work back to last week's highs at 290 and recent highs near 295. But if we start to give out that 284, likely coming back to test this 281 and 280, where that daily 21 sits. SPX. On SPX, gonna be opening. Oh, let's see. Near this 4,000, this 39.90. We have the daily 8 at 39.80. So I was looking for the daily 8 to hold us up and bounce us up to fill this gap. Looking like we closed near 40.26. So let's see if we can hold the daily 8, get back up to fill this gap, and maybe complete the journey up to the daily 200 at 40.56. If we start to lose that 380, then we could be coming back to this gap below at 350, 360-ish. SPY. Oh, SPY, 398. You notice this rejection from last Friday. A couple Fridays ago, sorry. It was right around 398. We finally fought back above that last week, and now we're kind of back at it pre-market. So overall, let's see if we can hold that 398. The daily 8 will be pretty much right there as well. Our pre-market low right near there as well. So if we start to give those out early, then we're likely coming back to 395.8 to find support. Should that give out, then we might be talking a reversion to the mean down at 390. But if we can hold up and start to catch a bounce, looking to get back over 400, back to fill the gap at 402. And through last week's, these two recent highs at 403.5 to get to 405 where the daily 200 sits. Tesla. So Tesla also had some interesting relative strength. At the end of last week, held this 166, 167.5 zone on Tuesday and fought right back up above 180 to 185-ish. Now going to be opening right near 180. So let's see if we can hold our pre-market lows near 177.5. Also kind of the last spot we bounced on Wednesday. And if we can get back above this these highs here, around 182, we're going to get back to fill the gap around 183, and then continue to 185, 190. But if we start to lose that pre-market low, and about this 176.5, then we are probably coming back to retest 172, 170, and the zone below. Could be the potential of an H, but we did get near that third Keltner and almost back to the mean in just a day or two. So let's see if we can hold up here and complete that journey back to the mean, or if we roll over for an H. UVXY. Looks like we're going to be opening near $8. So we're approaching this downtrend line. We are at the top of what looks like maybe an hourly squeeze, 2-hour squeeze, right at this $8. So for upside in the market today, looking for UVXY to reject this $8, 805 pre-market high, right at this trend line, and continue back down to fill the gap and get to this 7.6, 7.5 at the bottom of that 2-hour squeeze. But if we're going to see some downside in the market today, then we might see UVXY quickly get over this trend line and over that 805 and start the journey back up to the daily 8, which sits at 835, and up to that psych level of 8.5. right? If we're going to slip back and revert to the mean, which is below on a lot of names, then we might see UVXY get back over 8, 8.5, and then fight up to 9, and the daily mean at 9.2. Just some targets to keep an eye on for each direction. And VIX. And we'll wrap this up. So VIX last week just kept slipping below this 22.5. Almost made it down to 20 before settling, having a gap up right back to this 22.5. So for upside in the market today, looking for VIX to stay under pre-market highs at this 22.5, get back below 20, which will kind of show us that we're trying to go fill the gap. I'm sorry, get back below 22 in this daily 8, which would show us that we have the potential to go back and fill the gap. Back down to this 20.5. Well, 20.2 fills the gap. So overall, if we're going to see upside in the market today, I want to see VIX reject here and start to head back to fill the gap. Otherwise, if VIX starts to break out above 22.5, then likely coming up to test 23, 23.3, and the daily 21 sits near 24. We also have our 4-hour on VIX right at that 22.67. So again, want to see us reject and start to roll back over to fill the gap on VIX. That's it for today's prep. Hopefully everyone found this helpful. If you're still listening and you did find this helpful, maybe give us a like on the video. Always helps us out with the YouTube algorithms. But yeah, we have some big economic data coming out this week. Let's see if they want to rally into it. Let's see how that data goes. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the big days. I'd say probably Thursday, the biggest day with PCE. But good luck this week. Good luck today, folks, and we'll see everybody in the chat.